The Antarctic wind howled outside the research station as Professor James Miller stared at the radar readings for the fifth time. His eyes weren't playing tricks on him. There really was something massive buried 2 miles beneath the ice. "Look at this," he called out to his team, his breath visible in the cold air of the monitoring room. "These readings don't make any sense. The structure down there, it's perfectly geometric." Dr. Alice Baker, the team's geologist, walked over and adjusted her thick-rimmed glasses. "Natural formations don't create perfect hexagons," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "Whatever this is, it's artificial." Within hours, the small research station transformed into a hub of activity. The discovery was too big to keep quiet, and soon the United Earth government sent additional scientists and equipment. They brought heavy drilling machinery, designed specifically for the harsh Antarctic conditions. The drilling took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of tension, excitement, and sleepless nights. The team worked in shifts, monitoring every inch of progress. They had to be careful. The ice sheets were tricky, and one wrong move could collapse their access shaft. On the 23rd day, they broke through. Miller led the first exploration team. Wearing heated environmental suits, they descended through the carved ice tunnel. Their lights illuminated walls of ancient ice, until suddenly they hit something else, something that shouldn't exist. Metal. Miller whispered into his comm unit. "We're seeing worked metal. The dating equipment says this is impossible. Its reading is over 5 million years old." The structure's entrance was a massive doorway, covered in symbols unlike anything ever discovered on Earth. They weren't hieroglyphs or any known ancient script. They had been carved by hands that weren't human. The team's engineer, Robert Green, discovered the opening mechanism, a simple pressure plate that had somehow remained functional after millions of years. The door slid open with a hiss of preserved air. Inside, they found the impossible. The chamber stretched for what seemed like miles, filled with rows upon rows of metallic containers. Each one was the size of a small car, covered in the same strange symbols. But it was what they saw through the transparent sections of these containers that made them gasp. Bodies. Preserved bodies of beings that were clearly not from Earth. Some were humanoid, others completely alien in form. All were perfectly preserved, as if they had been laid to rest yesterday, not millions of years ago. "This isn't just a burial chamber," Miller said, his voice shaking with emotion. "This is a cemetery. Earth. Earth is their graveyard." The team moved deeper into the facility, documenting everything. They found more chambers, more bodies, but also something else. Machines. Ancient technology that hummed to life at their presence, projecting holographic images that told a story. Earth had been chosen by multiple alien civilizations as their final resting place. The planet's unique magnetic field, combined with its geological stability, made it perfect for preservation. These advanced species had turned our entire planet into a vast cemetery, a sacred ground where they could rest for eternity. As Miller recorded his initial findings, he couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something bigger than just a discovery. This wasn't just about archaeology anymore. This was about humanity's place in the galaxy. Log entry 1. He spoke into his recorder. "We've found evidence that Earth has been used as a burial ground by multiple alien civilizations. The implications are staggering. If these species were advanced enough to preserve their dead for millions of years, what else did they leave behind?" He didn't know it yet, but as he made that first log entry, signals were already racing across the galaxy. Ancient beacons, dormant for millions of years, had detected the disturbance. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, others were listening. A discovery that would change humanity's destiny had begun. 2 weeks after the discovery, Professor Miller sat in the main research lab, studying the holographic displays they had managed to activate. The ancient machines cast an eerie blue glow across the room. Behind him, Dr. Baker sorted through data readings while Robert Green tried to understand the alien technology's power source. None of them noticed the first tremor. The second shake made their coffee cups rattle. The third nearly knocked them off their feet. "That's not natural," Green said, checking his instruments. "Something's powering up in the lower chambers." The walls of the facility hummed with energy. Dormant circuits awakened, glowing with a soft purple light that traced patterns through the metal. In the center of the room, a new hologram flickered to life, larger and clearer than any they had seen before. The image showed a map of the galaxy, with thousands of points of light spreading outward from Earth like ripples in a pond. Miller watched in horror as he realized what was happening. "It's a beacon," he whispered. "We triggered some kind of warning system." High above Earth, satellites began picking up massive energy signatures. The ancient signal was powerful enough to pierce the vast darkness between stars. Within hours, every major observatory on the planet reported strange readings. They didn't have to wait long for a response. 3 days later, the first alien ships appeared near Jupiter's orbit. They were massive vessels, each one bigger than Earth's largest cities. Their designs were different. 3 distinct styles representing 3 different civilizations, but they all moved with the same purpose. Earth's government scrambled to respond. Military forces went on high alert, but what defense could they mount against ships that could cross galaxies? The aliens' message arrived on all frequencies, translated into every human language by their advanced systems. To the species currently occupying Sacred Burial World 2174, your presence has been noted. This world was designated as a final rest site by the ancient Accords. Your occupation of this holy ground is a violation of galactic law. Miller and his team were quickly brought to the United Earth Government's emergency session in Geneva. The Great Hall was packed with world leaders, all facing screens showing the alien vessels approaching Earth. "They think we're grave robbers," Miller explained to the assembly. "These civilizations lost track of Earth over the millennia. They forgot about one of their most sacred burial grounds, and now they've found us living here." The alien message continued. "You have 1 standard galactic year to evacuate this world. All structures must be removed. All traces of your presence must be erased. This is not a negotiation. Sacred burial grounds are inviolable under laws that predate your species." Director Anna Stone, head of the United Earth Government, stood before the assembly. Her voice was firm as she addressed both humanity and the alien fleet. "Earth is our home," she broadcast. "We were born here. We evolved here. If this is truly a sacred place, then we are its natural guardians, not its desecrators." But the aliens weren't interested in humanity's claims. Their ships moved closer, taking positions around Earth like giant watchdogs. Their presence in the sky became a constant reminder of the deadline humanity faced. In the Antarctic facility, Miller and his team worked desperately to understand more about the ancient burial ground. They knew humanity's future depended on what they could learn from these alien tombs. "There has to be more," Miller said, studying the alien texts. "No civilization this advanced would just leave their dead without protection. There must be something else here, something we're missing." As if in response to his words, one of the ancient screens lit up with new information. Dr. Baker leaned in close, her eyes widening as she translated the symbols. "Professor," she said, her voice trembling, "I don't think these are just tombs. They're part of something bigger, something that could change everything." Above them, the alien ships waited silently, while humanity's time slowly ticked away. 4 months had passed since the aliens arrived. Their massive ships still hung in Earth's sky like dark moons, visible even during daylight. Children pointed at them during recess, while adults tried not to look up, pretending life could go on as normal. In the United Earth Government's underground command center, Director Anna Stone faced the alien representatives on the massive video screen. The 3 alien species could not have looked more different from each other. The first looked almost like living crystal, with sharp edges and glowing cores. The second was a mass of swirling gas contained within an environmental suit. The third appeared as a giant insect with multiple compound eyes. Yet they all shared the same stern expression of disapproval. "Your time grows short," the crystal being said, its voice translated by computers. "You have 8 months remaining to leave this sacred world. We see no signs of evacuation preparations." Director Stone stood straight, her gray hair neat despite the long hours she had been working. "We told you before, we cannot leave. Earth is our home. We evolved here. Our earliest ancestors walked these lands millions of years ago." "Impossible," the gas-form alien replied. "This world has been a sacred burial site for over 10 million years. No intelligent species could have evolved here during that time." But Stone had been waiting for this moment. She pressed a button, and the screens filled with the latest findings from Miller's team. "We have proof," she said. "Our scientists have found something in the burial chambers, something you need to see." In the Antarctic facility, Professor Miller and Dr. Baker worked frantically to document their latest discovery. They had found a hidden chamber, deeper than all the others, filled with what looked like medical equipment. "The dating shows this equipment was used regularly," Baker explained over the video feed. "Even while the burial chambers were being filled, something was happening here beyond just burials." Green, who had barely slept in days, added, "The machines were collecting genetic samples from every species that was buried here, and—" he paused, looking at his readings again. "They were combining them." The alien representatives went silent. Even through the video feed, their shock was obvious. "That's right," Stone continued. "Earth wasn't just a burial ground. It was an experiment. Your ancestors weren't just preserving their dead here. They were creating something new. They were creating us." The crystal being's light dimmed slightly. "You suggest that your species is a product of our ancestors' work." "We have the genetic proof," Miller said, sending more data. "Human DNA contains traces of every species buried in these chambers. We're not just living on your burial ground. We're the children of those buried here. We're your descendants." The command center erupted in motion as alarms suddenly blared. On the radar screens, more alien ships appeared, dropping out of faster-than-light travel. These were different from the first 3 fleets, older designs, but somehow more threatening. "You have done something dangerous," the insect-like alien warned. "By accessing those chambers, you have activated ancient protocols. The Guardian ships approach." Stone looked at her advisors in confusion. "Guardian ships? What are they guarding?" The gas-form alien's twirling patterns became more agitated. "Not what. Who? They guard you. The genetic inheritors. Our ancestors left them to protect their greatest creation, their children." Through the windows of the command center, people could see new lights in the sky. The Guardian ships, massive and ancient, took up positions around Earth. Their presence made the 3 alien fleets look small in comparison. In the Antarctic facility, more ancient systems hummed to life. Miller watched in awe as new holograms appeared, showing images of the past, of alien scientists carefully combining genetic material, of monitoring Earth's evolution, of watching humanity grow. "We didn't just find our past," he said quietly. "We found our purpose." Above, the Guardian ships waited, ready to protect humanity from any who would threaten their inheritance. The time for evacuation was over. Now it was time for humanity to claim their birthright. The ancient Guardian ships had changed everything. The 3 alien fleets that had threatened Earth now kept their distance, watching warily as the massive vessels moved into defensive positions around the planet. Deep in the Antarctic facility, Professor Miller couldn't tear his eyes away from the new holograms that filled the chamber. They showed images of Earth's past, but not the past he had learned about in history books. "Look at this," he called to Dr. Baker and Green. The hologram showed massive machines buried deep within Earth's crust. These aren't just burial chambers. The whole planet is one giant fortress. Green checked his instruments, his eyes growing wide. "The energy readings make sense now. These burial chambers, they're not just tombs. They're power stations. Dr. Baker pointed to a new set of symbols that had appeared on the walls. According to these records, each alien civilization that buried their dead here also left behind defensive systems. They weren't just protecting their dead. They were protecting their experiment. They were protecting us. In orbit, the Guardian ships began transmitting data to Earth's computers. The information was overwhelming. Technical specifications for weapons systems that had been sleeping beneath Earth's surface for millions of years. Commander Lisa West, Earth's military chief, studied the data in the command center. These defense systems, they're beyond anything we've ever imagined. Energy shields that could cover the whole planet. Weapons that could stop a fleet without destroying it. Director Stone stood beside her, watching as more information poured in. Can we control them? That's the interesting part, West replied. According to these specs, only those with the right genetic markers can activate the systems. Only humans can use them. In the facility, Miller and his team had made another discovery. Behind a previously hidden door, they found what looked like a control room. Ancient screens lit up as they entered, responding to their presence. It's like they knew we would eventually find this, Miller said, watching as the systems came online. They left us everything we would need to defend ourselves, but only when we were ready. Green worked at one of the control panels, his fingers moving across symbols that somehow felt familiar. The genetics aren't just about DNA. They pass down knowledge too. Muscle memory. Instincts. That's why these controls feel natural to us. Above them, the Guardian ships continued their silent watch. The 3 alien fleets had retreated to the edge of the solar system, their threats of forced evacuation forgotten in the face of Earth's awakening defenses. Dr. Baker found something new in the data streams. Professor, look at this. The beings buried here. They weren't just random aliens who chose Earth as their resting place. They were all part of the same project. They gave their lives to create us. Miller read through the translated text, his heart pounding. They were dying out. Each civilization, at the height of their power, realized they couldn't survive forever. So they chose to create something new, something that would combine the best of all of them. Us, Green said quietly. Humanity. In the command center, Director Stone received a new message from the alien fleets. The crystal being spoke, its tone very different from before. We have consulted our oldest records, it said. What you have discovered, it changes everything. We did not know. We had forgotten. The gas form alien added, the Guardian ships are proof. They respond only to the true inheritors. You are not defilers of this sacred ground. You are its intended guardians. Commander West looked at the weapons systems data again. We're not just their children, she said. We're their defenders. They left us the tools to protect not just Earth, but their legacy. In the Antarctic facility, Miller watched as more systems came online. The entire chamber hummed with power that had waited millions of years to be awakened. We're not done yet, he said, studying the new information appearing before them. This is just the beginning. They left us so much more to find. The ancient machines continued to wake up, ready to serve their intended masters. Humanity, the final creation of countless dying civilizations, born to inherit the stars. The Antarctic Research Facility had become the busiest place on Earth. Scientists from every nation worked around the clock, studying the ancient systems that were revealing themselves one by one. The massive chamber now hummed with constant activity, both human and alien. Professor Miller rubbed his tired eyes as he studied the latest genetic analysis. Dr. Baker sat next to him, comparing the data with the star maps the Guardian ships had provided. Each burial chamber, Baker said, pointing to different locations on the map, represents a different alien civilization. But look at this pattern. They didn't choose their burial spots randomly. Miller leaned forward, suddenly alert despite his exhaustion. The burial chambers formed a perfect geometric pattern across Earth's surface. When connected, they created a complex network that covered the entire planet. It's a grid, Green called from his workstation. The burial chambers are nodes in a planetary defense network. But there's something else. He pressed a few controls, and a new image appeared above their heads. The hologram showed Earth, but not as they had ever seen it before. Lines of energy connected each burial site, flowing into a central point, right where the first humans had evolved in Africa. They planned everything, Miller whispered. The burial chambers powered the genetic program. Each species added their own energy, their own essence to the experiment. They literally poured their life force into creating us. In orbit, the Guardian ships had begun sharing more of their knowledge with Earth's scientists. Commander West worked with them to understand the defensive capabilities they had inherited. The shields are powered by the same energy grid, she explained to Director Stone. Every burial chamber adds its power to the network. The more we activate, the stronger Earth's defenses become. Stone watched as technicians tested a small section of the shield. The air shimmered like heat waves rising from hot pavement, then solidified into an invisible barrier stronger than anything humans had ever created. But why? She asked. Why go to all this trouble? Why create us? The answer came from an unexpected source. The 3 alien fleets, still watching from the edge of the solar system, had been translating their oldest records. The crystal beam's transmission filled the command center screens. Our ancestors faced a terrible truth, it said. Each of our civilizations had reached its peak. We had stopped evolving, stopped adapting. We were dying, not as individuals, but as species. The gas form alien continued the explanation. They realized that true immortality couldn't come from preserving their own forms. It had to come from creating something new, something that combined the strengths of all while avoiding their weaknesses. Back in the facility, Dr. Baker made another discovery. Professor, look at this sequence. Our DNA. It's not just a combination of their genetics. It's an improvement. They engineered us to keep evolving, to never stop adapting. Green looked up from his work. That's why the defense systems respond to us so naturally. We're not just their children. We're their next step forward. We're what they were trying to become. In the command center, Director Stone received reports from around the world. More burial chambers were being discovered, each one adding its power to Earth's growing defensive network. Humanity was growing stronger by the day, awakening abilities that had laid dormant in their genes for millions of years. The insect-like alien spoke last, its compound eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. Our ancestors buried their dead on Earth, not just to preserve them, but to protect you until you were ready. The Guardian ships were left to watch over your development. Now you have reached the point they hoped for. Miller stood in the ancient control room, watching as more systems came online. Each one responded to human touch, to human thoughts, as if they had been waiting for this moment for millions of years. We're not just residents of a graveyard, he said. We're the resurrection. Everything they were, everything they hoped to become. It's all within us. The ancient machines hummed in harmony, as if agreeing with his words. Humanity had not just found its past. It had discovered its destiny. A new tension filled Earth's atmosphere. The 3 alien fleets had detected something approaching, something that made even the massive Guardian ships shift their positions defensively. In the Antarctic facility's control room, alarms blared as the long-range sensors activated. Professor Miller and his team rushed to their stations, watching as the readings poured in. Multiple ships, Green announced, his fingers flying over the controls. Bigger than anything we've seen yet. They're coming in fast from 3 different directions. Dr. Baker studied the energy signatures. These aren't like our visitors, or the Guardian ships. These readings, they're weapons, warships. Commander West's face appeared on their main screen. We're picking them up too. Looks like not everyone is happy about Earth's awakening. My team is calling them the Destroyers. They're heading straight for us. The new alien ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They were dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their weapons were already powered up. In the command center, Director Stone faced another transmission. This time, the message was simple and threatening. "The experiment ends now," a harsh voice declared. "This world has been corrupted. The sacred sites must be cleansed." Miller looked at the ancient controls surrounding him. "They're scared of us," he realized. "They've seen what we can do with the defensive systems, and they're afraid of what we might become." The first attack came without warning. The destroyer ships fired energy beams that could have vaporized entire continents, but they never reached Earth. The Guardian ships moved with impossible speed, forming a barrier around the planet. Behind them, the burial chamber network hummed to life. Energy flowed through the global grid, responding to humanity's collective will. "All stations," Commander West's voice rang out. "Initialize defense protocols. This is what we've been preparing for." Around the world, humans connected to the ancient systems their ancestors had left them. The technology responded to their thoughts, their DNA recognizing the tools it had been created to use. Green monitored the power readings as they climbed higher than ever before. "The grid is at full power. Every burial chamber is online. The shield is ready." In orbit, the Guardian ships began to glow with internal light. They weren't just defensive platforms. They were conduits for the power flowing up from Earth. Humanity's inherited weapons were about to show their true strength. The destroyers launched their full assault. Weapons that could crack planets struck Earth's shields. But where they expected to find weakness, they found only strength. Each burial chamber added its power to the defense, the combined energy of countless ancient civilizations protecting their children. "They don't understand," Dr. Baker said, watching the battle unfold. "Each attack makes us stronger. We're not just using the defense systems, we're learning from them, adapting them, just like we were designed to do." Miller watched as the inherited weapons responded to human commands. The Guardian ships moved in perfect coordination with Earth's defenses, creating patterns of energy that trapped and disabled the attacking vessels. "Send the message," Director Stone ordered from the command center. "One chance to withdraw. After that, we show them exactly what humanity can do." The destroyers responded with another barrage. This time, Earth's defenses didn't just block the attack. They absorbed it, channeled it, and redirected it. Commander West's voice was firm. "All stations, full power. Show them what Earth's guardians can do." The burial chamber network pulsed with energy. Every human operator felt the power flow through them, guided by instincts written into their DNA millions of years ago. The Guardian ships blazed with light as they prepared to fire. Earth was about to demonstrate why its ancient creators had chosen humanity as their heirs. The real test of their inheritance had begun. The battle for Earth lit up the solar system like a new sun. The destroyer ships' weapons clashed against humanity's inherited defenses, creating waves of energy visible from distant stars. In the Antarctic control room, Professor Miller watched as humanity's true power revealed itself. The defensive grid wasn't just protecting Earth. It was evolving, growing stronger with each attack. "Look at these readings," Dr. Baker called out. "The burial chambers. They're not just providing power anymore. They're teaching us. Every second we use these systems, we understand more about who we are." Green monitored the battle through the ancient screens. "The Guardian ships are responding to our commands perfectly now. It's like they're extensions of our own thoughts." Above Earth, the massive vessels danced through space, moving with impossible grace. The destroyer ships, for all their advanced weapons, couldn't match the combined power of humanity's inheritance and the Guardian ship's ancient strength. Commander West's voice came through clear and strong. "All stations, prepare for final defensive measure. The burial chambers have revealed their last secret." Director Stone stood in the command center, watching as new information flooded their screens. "This is what our ancestors were building towards," she said. "Not just weapons or shields, but understanding. True understanding of life itself." The destroyer ships launched their final assault, throwing all their power against Earth's defenses. But this time, something different happened. The shields didn't just block their attacks. They reached out, touched the enemy vessels, and simply stopped them. Energy conversion, Miller whispered, reading the data streaming across his screen. We're not destroying them. We're changing them. Just like our ancestors changed themselves to create us. The destroyer ships hum motionless in space, their weapons powerless against the evolutionary force they had awakened. The three original alien fleets watched in amazement as humanity demonstrated the true legacy they had inherited. Dr. Baker's fingers flew across the ancient controls. We're receiving transmissions from the burial chambers. All of them. They're showing us everything. The full history of our creation, the complete knowledge of all the species that came before. In orbit, the Guardian ships began to pulse with new energy. They were no longer just protectors. They had become teachers, sharing the wisdom of ages with their human inheritors. The crystal being's voice filled the command center. Now we understand. You were not created to be warriors or conquerors. You were created to be guardians of life itself. The gas form alien added, our ancestors saw that evolution had stopped. They gave their lives, their knowledge, their very essence to create a species that could continue growing, continue learning, continue becoming more. Green looked up from his station. The destroyer ships, their crews are still alive. The defense system didn't harm them. It just helped them understand. Director Stone received a new transmission. The destroyer fleet's commander spoke, but their voice had lost its hatred. We see now what was hidden. You are not defilers of sacred ground. You are its culmination, its purpose. In the Antarctic facility, Miller watched as more burial chambers activated around the world. But they weren't revealing weapons anymore. They were sharing knowledge, wisdom, art, and culture from thousands of ancient civilizations. This was the real inheritance, he said, not the weapons or the defenses. They left us their understanding, their hopes for the future. They made us their children in every way that matters. The Guardian ships settled into peaceful orbits as the destroyer fleet departed. The three original alien fleets approached Earth, no longer as judges but as equals, perhaps even as distant relatives meeting long-lost family. Director Stone's voice carried pride as she addressed the assembled alien representatives. Earth remains the resting place of your ancestors, but it's also the birthplace of their greatest achievement, a new species carrying forward the best of all who came before. The ancient machines hummed with approval as humanity took its first steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors or defenders, but as guardians of a legacy greater than any single civilization. The experiment was complete. The children of countless alien empires had come of age, and the stars waited to welcome them home.